How's it going, and welcome to Inside the Z, the Zachary Football Podcast. My name is Scott Pellegrin, Coach Pell, and on today's episode, we have the player interview of the week, the coach's spotlight, and story time with Coach Brew. Joining us for all the fun, defensive coordinator Matthew Zito, captain Christian Brooks, and the man himself, Coach David Brewerton. All right, so joining us week 2 of our coach's spotlight, we have our defensive coordinator, former special teams coordinator, one-time state champion, and the pride of the West Side, Matthew Zito. How's it going, man?
It's going good.
Well, I appreciate the time, dog.
No problem.
So, kind of doing what we did last week, and we won't be able to do it every week, but it kind of lined up perfect. You actually have a personal connection to this week's opponent. You're from Plaquemine, correct?
Yep, born and raised.
Awesome. So, tell me about kind of your starting coach and how'd you end up at the Z? I know you worked on that side of the river. So kind of walk us through that real quick.
So I went to St. John, which is a private school in town. And then I went to LSU. I graduated and ended up student teaching at Bruley with my former head coach, Eric Willis. He was my head coach 3 years in high school. And then when I finished my student teaching, I had to find a job for January. So Bruley didn't have a spot for me, so I went interview at Plaquemine High, and they had a spot, and I was teaching Louisiana history, and I took over mid-year, and it was, I'm going to use the words my boy Dexter used, like herding cats, and it was rough because, teaching middle school can be difficult. And then my second year, I ended up coaching D-line. That was my first and second year, and boy, I was there, I think, all the way through COVID, so 2020. And then I decided it was time for me to get a new scenery, I guess the best way to say it. And then I contacted a bunch of coaches when I was ready to go. And this wasn't until July, and Mr. Burke told me they had a spot open. And that's how I ended up here. I was the DC there 3 or 4 years, and I became a DC there like 2 days before fall camp. So that was definitely pretty crazy. And I came here, became the special teams coordinator, and Coach Thomas decided he had enough. Coach Brew made me to DC, and that's how I ended up where I'm at.
Dang. So how many years total you been coaching?
Oh, boy, since 2012. So what is that?
This will be number 15 then?
There you go.
This will be number 15.
So I got 15 in the system.
Okay.
Yep.
That's awesome. So being that we're going to play Plaquemine this week, and I know you worked with a couple of guys there. Obviously not everybody's still there. The head coach is gone. They have a different one now, but you also worked with him, correct?
Correct. So I worked for Paul DiStefano my whole time at Plaquemine. I think Dre Trosclair got the job after him, and then Donald Williams took it over. Donald Williams, one of my boys. When I was student teaching at Bruley, Donald was actually a player on that Bruley team.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess you could say I coached him, but how much coaching are you really doing as a student teacher, right?
Right.
And then, I was out there, but I didn't know,
Still counts, Coach.
Yeah,
Still
okay.
counts.
All right. So we'll say it counts. We'll say I coached him. I'll put it in quotes. And then Donald needed to do like observations. And so he ended up observing me for a semester at Plaquemine. And then he came over there and observed me. And then we ended up hiring him as a football coach. So when I was DC, I think he worked with me maybe my entire time as a coordinator. And we stayed close in touch ever since. So we got a lot of connections. I also know Paul Davis. I think he's coaching DBs now. I think he was, I think that's what he's coaching now. He was one of my DBs coach at Plaquemine. Brian Jordan, who's a DC, was actually played for us at Plaquemine. One of the smartest players I know, high character, great guy. Steve Connolly, the D-line coach. I coached him on D-line at Plaquemine. Hansoni, the OC, he worked on the offensive side when I was there, and I'm probably Cody Raymond, who is Corey Raymond's son at LSU.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yep, he was coaching offensive side when I was there, and I'm Michael Barbie. That's another one that was over there. He's one of Paul's really good friends, really good coach, and he's been with Plaquemine a long time.
Union for you then.
It is. It is.
Friendly rivalry, especially because having that background, that relationship with a lot of those guys.
Yeah, and we went scout them Thursday, and it was good seeing everybody again. I felt old. One of my former students, she's a twin, so I don't know which one it was. I said, "How old are you now?" She said, 25. I said, "God, dog, I feel old." I taught in 8th grade.
So let me ask you this. Did you ever get to a point where, this has nothing to do with football, where you taught with a former student? They went to school, came back, graduated, was a teacher, like a colleague? Because we're that old now. It's just,
I think at MSA I did. Yeah, I think, there was several. I think there's several here now that I didn't teach with them, but like Crowder, who's our age, did.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, 100%.
I never stayed at a place long enough to have that kind of situation, but I see a lot of my old kids from South Lafourche. There's like 5 or 6 or 7 of them on staff now. They're doing the cheer, the dance, and all the extras.
A couple of years ago, we hired a teacher, and she graduated college in 2017. Jeez. I was already teaching 5 years by then, or 6 years, whatever. And I mean, so yes.
He's getting old, Coach.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So, kind of shifting to a little more about Zachary and kind of how it is here, and name of the show is Inside the Z, obviously. So you're kind of an outsider in the sense of, not an outsider, but you're relatively new here. You weren't here from the start. Guys like, Brew brought Thomas and Langlois, and then guys like Cleve and Davis were already here, and Gito already here. So they kind of seen everything from start to finish. What are some of the differences? I'm going to ask you a question you asked me when I first got here. Some of the differences you noticed about here that might be a little bit different. Obviously, no shade to how other people do it, a million ways to do it. But what was different when you got here? What was different about this place and the operation of it versus some of the other places you've been?
I say 2 things jumped in my mind when you said that. One, organization. I'll give Brew credit just as far as like the manifesto. Like, what your job is from after the retreat that we do in July, when we all go to, not my camp, but my family's camp, and we sit there. What was it, 10 hours this year?
9, 10,
yeah,
11,
hours.
something.
Yeah, it was wild. And then it brings you through every position. We talk about players. What's defined for you. And I'll say this one thing about like being in Iberville compared to here, because I'm the exception now. I've only worked in two districts. If you want to count student teachings, it's 3. I mean, most coaches. I mean, how many have you been in, Bill?
Shoot, Lafourche, EBR, Ascension, Zachary, 4.
EBR twice, right? So we can say EBR twice.
Yeah, 2 times. Yeah. Thank you.
Coach, listen, you count EBR twice.
Thank you for that little curve, not that curveball, that little jab right there, my man. You're always good for one, Coach Zito.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Pell, but all those places you named, they're not independent school districts, correct?
None.
Yeah. So I just found, and this is only me speaking with Iberville, it's like when it's not independent school district, everybody wants their slice of the pie.
Yes.
That makes sense.
And it's got to be fair.
Correct. Even though the school size might be fair, if one school gets, the rest got to get it. The thing with being in Zachary is everybody's rowing in the same directions. For the administration, the school, it's not like, well, Zachary got this, school X got to get this. There's only Zachary.
Right.
So that makes things a lot easier and a lot more defined, I guess.
And you see that a lot with you see it with a lot of things, but the districts I've been in, it's always about turf. I was at South Lafourche for 5 years. They laid the turf down right before my 5th year. I was at EA for 4 years. They laid the turf down. The end of the season, that's a whole nother story of, I think, my 3rd year there. So my point is, usually with those kinds of situations, a lot of these schools have the means, independent or not, they have the means or the alumni base to raise the funds. But like you said, well, just because you can afford it don't mean we can let you build it. You know
what's crazy? Like when we were coming up, like when we were in high school, it was like a big deal to go actually play on turf.
Absolutely.
Like I remember we played at Strawberry Stadium. It was like, oh man, playing on turf. I remember one of our players took that pellets and put it in his lip like
he was dipping.
Yeah. And I was like, that is absolutely disgusting. But now, my point is, like, everybody has
Everybody got it.
Yeah. It's common now.
When I was in high school, 2008, we went to Hoss Memphis on the West Bank, played West Jeff. That was the first time I think I've been on turf in real life at that point. So everybody's got it now. But no, that's absolutely true. The independent school district gives you so many more options. And like you said, everybody's rowing in the same direction.
And I'm going to say this. It also gives you can put coaches, like you said, it's amazing how many coaches we have on staff. That's one thing you told me, because you have all the elementary schools to put them at and so on. You have so many more spots compared to, I'm just going to use Iberville as my experience. Like I got to have a North Iberville coach, and I got to have, like when I was at MSA, I had to have a Plaquemine coach and a White Castle coach, on the west side. And it's just, everything has to be equal. And it handcuffs you at times. I'm not saying those places are not successful, but it makes things tougher.
It's not even commonplace to do that with your own feeder schools in regular school districts, you know, and I'll use Southfield Foods because nobody up here is familiar with that. But Golden Meadow Middle and LaRose Cutoff, you can't stash a coach over there. And then they'll be, their schedule is worked out to where, you know, we're working together and everybody, no. Even though we feed you in 2 years, no. This is our school and we'll do it our way and, type stuff. I mean,
just things I don't see or I forget, but you brought this up the other day too, is how our middle school is running our stuff. Right. Elite, Legends. It's alignment. Like
also hard to do.
Alignment, right? Alignment. And he does like this, alignment from the top to the bottom.
Every head coach, when he goes for or potential head coach, when he goes for an interview, he will talk about alignment. Those committees hear that same thing 10 times when they interview people. But I often wonder, you know, how many places are prepared for what that looks like? Because I think that's easier said than done. I think a lot of coaches know how it's supposed to look, especially if you've been in this system, you know how it's supposed to look. But you know, how many of the top dogs who do that hiring anywhere, you know, that are you prepared to do what that takes? So that's awesome. Everybody kind of pulls in the same directions very quickly. I know you got to roll, but some of your personal, I don't want to say coaching philosophies. I feel like that's kind of cliche, but some of your coaching quirks. You know, we talked to Steve last week, and he's talking about a big thing for him was players over plays. You know, how do I put my best on their best and that sort of thing? What are some of the things you try to hang your hat on as a defensive coach?
Well, if you'd asked me this, I don't know, last year, let's just say last year, I wanted to be static and move at times. But now met with Jason Brown, St. Charles, I'm including colleges, one of the smartest football coaches I ever met. All right. And the way he's able to ball down things and make it extremely simple is what we're trying to do here. So I would say now we're movement over static. Yeah. So like static is more our change up. And I don't know if you know Gary Burnett. Does that ring a bell for you?
I do not.
Gary Burnett's I say famous, but he was a well-known DC in the area. He passed away not too long ago. But when we were rolling that block, I mean, we used to play him at St. Michael's, and we had much better players. But he was always switching fronts, changing it up. And after the game, he was friends with some guy and said, if y'all would ever figure out where we were, we would be in a bond. Right. And so I think the movement, and the more I get into it, is our way of not letting the offense get their feet set, like how the offense shifts and they motion and so on. I think the movement helps us do that. Like, I'll give an example. Denham said, well, why are y'all blitzing the corners? There's trips into the boundary. Do y'all not have rules? We do have rules. It's just not the rules of what you want them to be. Right. Does that make sense?
It might be a little unconventional, but one thing I really like about, you know, what we do, without getting too far into it, you know, I like how we could do anything versus anything. It's not, you never handcuff yourself.
Yeah. And I'm going to say this. One of the things Brown taught me we did this offseason was I'd never know what plays coming in scout team no more. And I'm actually, you're going to laugh, AI, but I'm actually using AI. I have my list of my calls, and Crowder runs our scout team. He tells me odd or even, like for the front. All right. And so odd or even, and I decide, and then I go through and I got my calls group by odd, my calls group by even, and I use AI to give me random numbers. That way I don't know the play number and I don't know what call is coming. That way we can truly fit up, and it makes me identify problems, because like maybe I wouldn't have called that. Right. And I'm gonna be honest. Now I feel more confident so far of calling stuff in the game, but because we rep it so much, it just gets different stuff.
Well, and I think it's good for the kids too, because it forces the kids to communicate something. Okay, we don't normally run this play versus that formation, but if you stop it, okay, well, we can. How will we do it? Well, they start having to apply their rule, and guess what? You could run anything versus anything. Might not be your favorite thing to be in, but you could always fit every gap, defend every receiver, and get back in the huddle, and then get the call you want, hopefully, on the next one. Because a lot of calling defense, I find, could be a guessing game sometimes.
It is a guessing game. You know, you're playing the percentages and hope it holds up. Right?
Absolutely, and don't get in cover 3 versus trips. That's a different ball game. But Coach, I appreciate you coming on. I know you got to roll out, and I got to get a couple more people in here. But man, I appreciate the time. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Week 2, Inside the Z, the Zachary Football Podcast. Week 2 of Story Time with Coach Brew. Coach Brew, welcome.
Appreciate it. Thank you, man.
Man, so week 2, we got some good feedback last week, man. I think I looked on YouTube. We had about 400 and something views, which isn't a ton of views, but I thought good for a first week and kind of a new thing we're trying to pump out there. So we're going to keep figuring out ways to grow it and hopefully get it out there. I had some parents at pregame meal compliment us on it. Right. Yeah. Cool. Some people really liked it. Some people from afar. We got people sharing it on social media. So hopefully it grows a little more, man.
Right.
And,
anybody who might want to throw a sponsorship our way, I mean, I'm sure that's always accepted, right, Coach?
Sure.
But anyway, so a story time with Coach Brew. So obviously this week, and we won't get into it too much because I know you got your radio show tonight, and that's where you kind of hit the opponent heavy. But we got Plaquemine High this week. Okay, we got Plaquemine High and second year of the contract. So how many times roughly, if you could, remember, have we played Plaquemine since you've been here?
Let's see. So this will be the third time that we played since I've been here in Zachary. We played them early on when I got here. We had a home game with them here, and then last year we played them, and then this, like you said, the second year contract.
Okay. 2-0.
Yeah.
Awesome.
2-0.
So, talk to me about that team, and I mean, west side of the river. We're west side heavy on our pre-district schedule this year. We got 2 games out near Lafayette. We got one, obviously. They come to us, but one against Plaquemine. Just talk about what you've seen from that team over the years, and obviously a semifinalist last year, so a very good opponent.
Yeah,
and they always seem to have good players.
Well, they kind of fall in line with what I like to do in pre-district, and that's schedule tough, schedule heavy early on. I think it helps you in your district run, and it certainly helps you in the postseason. So Plaquemine certainly falls there. They've always got really, really good football players. I feel like, for years and years, Paul DeStefano was the head coach there and always did a good job, and those guys were well coached. And then, Coach Williams is there now, and he's doing a really good job with them. So I think that, anytime that you get a chance to line up with somebody like that in week one, it's going to do nothing but good things for you. They're going to win a lot of games, so it's a huge PowerPoint game for you if you're lucky enough to win it. And I'm sure they feel the same way. So, I like it. I think we've had some stiff competition with Denham Springs in a scrimmage game, and then you go fine tune some things with Livonia last week in a jamboree, and now somebody's going to be 1-0 and somebody's going to be 0-1 after this week, right? And so now it counts, and so I think this is a great team to line up with and test where you are in week one.
Awesome. So anything comes to mind as far as memories of them come and play here or anything like that?
Well, it's funny that you should ask, man. The first time that we got a chance to play him here was in I think it was 14 or 15.
Oh, so early on.
Oh yeah. It was year 1 or year 2, and they were the number 1 ranked team in the state of Louisiana in 4A that year. And
that's right. They made a run that year. I remember they had a quarterfinal run, I believe.
They did, and you've been coaching a long time. You're going to know what I'm talking about when I say this. Every now and then, you have one of those games where, my goodness, everything is just clicking perfectly.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And it was one of those nights for the Broncos. I mean, it was incredible. I mean, nothing was missing, right? Our offense was playing great. Our defense was playing with special teams, and they couldn't catch a break. They were uncharacteristically putting the ball on the ground, and they blew a couple of coverages. And so this is kind of one of those nights, it's a fun night because Paul DeStefano is a friend of mine. He's the opposing coach. And of course, our current defense coordinator, young Matthew Zito, was
Matthew Zito.
Was the defensive coordinator over there. And so, it was one of those crazy nights. Well, most of the time when a game like that ends, the craziness ends. It did not that night. Post game stories with Brew. Here you go. You're going to get one right now. Right? So the game ends, and I go up to I do a couple of interviews, meet with my staff. I'm upstairs in my office, and our athletic director walks into my office. He says, "Hey, I'm just letting you know what's going on." He said, there were some things that happened in the locker room, in the visitors' locker room. He goes, "I have no idea whether it was Plaquemine or not, but we have some issues." And so Zachary PD is pulling their bus over right now as we speak. So I'm like, what? And he's like, "Yeah, I mean, we got to try to find out what happened, this, that, the other." So apparently Coach Zito at the time is driving the old Green Devils out of town, and he says that Zachary PD comes up on either side of him, and he says, "Well, look at this. You know, they played a great game against us tonight, gave us a loss, and now their police are going to escort us out of town. How nice of them!" Because the next thing you know, they're getting pulled over. You know, and Coach DeStefano's in handcuffs outside the bus.
No.
And, like, what a crazy, crazy night, right? So Paul and I, we laugh about it to this day when we talk about it. You know, it was some miscommunication there, or maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But the bottom line is, you know, what a crazy way to start off a game, which has now kind of turned into a little rivalry. You know, with getting to play them, and now we've signed a two-year contract with them for the next 2 years after this year. So apparently the Broncos and the Green Devils are going to be playing a lot, and that's good. I mean, I enjoy the competition, and I know they do too. And so, but yeah, what a crazy, crazy night that was. And you know, it was one of those games where at halftime the score had gotten completely out of hand. So, you know, we were talking about who we were going to play in the second half, try to get some of our young guys in there. You know, well, the next thing you know, they come out and I think they block a punt for a touchdown, and then they kick an onside kick and get it, score again. You know, so now all of a sudden
that's two major swings.
It's like, okay, we got to keep scoring, right? So then we start scoring again, and then it just turned into just absolute mayhem, you know, in the second half, and you know, it's one of those crazy lopsided scores.
And then DeStefano's in handcuffs on the side of the road.
Right. I mean, like, just kind of one of those nights, you know. But it was obviously I was on the good end of that. It was a lot of fun for us, you know. But certainly one of the crazier stories that took place back in the day.
Handcuffs. I didn't think that's where that story was going. I didn't think that. So what happened? It was just locker room was trashed. It was.
Yeah, I mean, like, there were some issues.
Right. Understood. So, gonna kind of shift into today's topic. That was awesome. I didn't think we'd get that on as far as talking about the opponent.
Right.
But I want to talk about, or I want you to talk about, maybe some of your mentors in coaching and kind of what, you know, you don't have to go back all the way to day one, but some of the people that influenced you and influenced the way we do things here.
Yeah. You know, I think that people get into coaching for a couple of different reasons. You know, sometimes they get into coaching because they were lucky enough to have some tremendous men in their life, or women that were mentors in their life, and I think that other ones get into it to make sure that they do it completely opposite of some of the bad influences they've had in their life, right? So, luckily, I'm extremely lucky to say that I've had some awesome people in my life that had huge impacts on me. As a coach, but also, you know, trying to be a mentor for kids and trying to make sure that we're you know, directing them in a way that's going to make their life better as they grow older. You know, everybody, well, I say everybody, most people know that I coach Sid Edwards. I coached for Sid at Redemptress as soon as I got out of college. What a lot of people don't know is that he was also my 6th grade basketball coach. Yes, I did play some hoops back in the day.
And no doubt.
And he was also my 9th grade football coach. So Sid, I was able to learn from him both as a player and also as a coach. And, you know, he's one of those guys that was just tremendous and remains tremendous to this day and what he's trying to do as far as our parish is concerned.
Mayor Coach Sid Edwards.
Right. But Sid was one of those guys that he was unbelievable as far as just the relationships that he formed with people and the way he treated people, and just one of those guys that you love and you love to coach for and with and play for, and it's just awesome. I'm going to tell you a great Sid story. Since we're telling stories, this is a great one, right? So we're playing at McKinley down there in the bottom one night, right? And they had a really good football team at the time. And so it's a close game going into halftime. And we have the ball on our own 5-yard line.
And y'all at Redemptress at this point.
We are. We're coaching at Redemptress, playing at McKinley High School. So we're on our own 5-yard line, and there's a timeout. And there's literally like 20 seconds left in the half. McKinley's out of timeouts now. So our deal is, hey, let's just take a knee and get to halftime, right? We're winning by a touchdown. Sid says, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Call the guys over here. So we get the offense over there, and Sid says, all right, here's what I want. I want 3 receivers over to the right side, and I want 1 receiver over to the left side. Okay, well, who do you want on the line? Like, what formation do you want? I don't know what formation. I just need 3 guys over there. Tell them to stand there. They don't need to do anything. They're not doing anything anyway. And he says, now we're going to get in shotgun. And he says, Landon, that's the quarterback. He said, you catch the shotgun, get your drop, turn to your left, and throw it as far as you can. Right? Jork Calvin, who went on to play at Troy and then played for the Philadelphia Eagles for a while. He says, Jork, you're going to get out of there to the left side. And he said, you just take off running as fast as you can. Go catch the ball. So we're like, what protection do you want, Sid? I don't know. Just block everybody up front. Just make sure we're protected, right? And just throw the ball as far as you can, right? So we come out. Well, they've got a corner and press coverage in his face and a safety standing over the top of him.
Well, they knew.
Right. So we're on the headsets. We're going, Sid, this is bad. We do have a timeout. Let's just call a timeout, revamp this thing, take a knee. He's like, no, just go ahead. I'm like, man, I'm telling you, this is not good, Sid. They pick right here. They're in our, this is not good. I know about that time. Boom, we're snapping the ball, right? We throw it as far as we can possibly throw it. The 3 guys, our 1 receiver, the corner, and the safety, they all go up at the same time. The 2 guys from McKinley hit each other and fall down, and the ball shoots straight up in the air, and our guy's standing there. Boom, catches it, 95-yard touchdown. Okay. Well, it's just quiet on the headsets, right? And Sid says, I don't understand what the big deal with this play calling thing is. This is easy, This is easy.
Anybody could do it.
Right? And I'm like, Sid, there's no way in hell that should have ever just happened. He goes, players, not plays, Brew. Players, not plays. He says, this is not rocket science. Now, at the time, as a young coach, I'm going, this is ridiculous. There's no way this should, blah, blah, blah. But then when you start thinking about it, the guy's won a lot of games, both football and basketball. He's seen a lot. And sometimes, that's what it is. You trust your guy to go make a play.
Absolutely.
Right? And just kind of one of those crazy stories, that and there's a million of them I could tell about Sid. I know we're talking about my mentors right now, but that's the kind of guy he was. He was awesome.
Running for mayor can't be that hard either. Hell, why not?
Right.
Why not? Well, it's funny you say that because so I don't have a Sid story because I've met the man twice. Mm-hmm. Great dude.
Right.
My OC last year worked for him for 2 years at Central and at Estruma.
Right.
He told me a version of. Because I asked him, I said, what, Sid Edwards, 2-time champion, like he's got all these wins and everybody says he's the man, all this stuff. Like, what's he like? I'm like in awe of the stories.
Right.
And he says, he might be the worst football coach of all time because he said he can't draw power. Like he don't care about any of that. He said superior relationships. He knows how to use the best players and he really understands how to manage the staff and really get everybody pulling in the right direction, which was exactly what you just told me. So. All right, back after a quick technical issue. We were just talking about Sid Edwards, Coach Brew's mentor, so we could pick back up on that. We were talking about how how Sid is. What's funny is talking about his relationships with people and how good of a dude he is. I heard him one of the times. I've only met him twice, so one of the times was he was explaining to somebody why he was running for mayor, and he kind of saw the condition of the north side of BR. Working at Estruma, and that kind of motivated him to want to, create some real change. And I think that motivated the run for mayor. And he won. How crazy, coach, mayor, coach. How awesome is that? Belichick for president next, maybe.
Right.
But talk a little bit about some of the stuff you use that maybe you learned from Sid with our own program now.
Well, the manifesto that we use at the beginning of every season, I'd venture to say probably all the guys that coached with Sid probably use some form or version of that. Just an opportunity to become ultra organized and what's going on inside the program, making sure that everybody has an idea of what is going on, not just with the things that you're in charge of personally, but what everybody's in charge of singularly as far as the staff is concerned. And I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page with what we're doing, and that's what that was all about. Giving people different things to do inside the program, where it makes it, collectively a part of everybody, not just the head coach there, right? And so all of those things are really important. And also to go along with that, I think that there's always going to be guys on the staff that aspire to be a head guy, guys that want to lead their own program for the first time, or again, maybe in your situation, where I think it's part of my responsibility to make sure that I'm trying to help with that as much as possible and give maybe some ideas of things you may want to use, later on down the road. Sid was one of those guys that he never sat in on any of our offensive meetings or our defensive meetings or anything like that, and kind of gave us full autonomy on both sides of the ball to coach the way we wanted to coach, just as long as we were getting things done. But the way that the relationships that he built and the way that he built them with his players and with his coaches just was tremendous, and certainly was probably a massive part of the success that we had, at Redemptorist and everywhere that he's been since then.
How is something like the manifesto met? You've been a head coach now for, you said 7 years at Livonia, so 12, so almost 19 years. So how is that met originally? Because we talked about inheriting some coaches and retaining guys, and obviously the people that have worked with you in the past, that's nothing to them. That's what they do, right? That's just how we do it. How is that net for first timers?
I think probably 5 hours into that first time meeting, right? That
all 14 hours of, no, I'm kidding.
Right. People are looking around going, wow, what do we really need to be this precise on everything? I had a new coach one time tell me after the meeting, he goes, Coach, I know now, what time I can use the bathroom on November. And of course he was being facetious, but when you look at things like that, I think it's helpful to be able to make sure that just everybody's on the same page with what you're doing, right? What are the expectations there? What are the philosophies inside the program, and ultimately what we're all trying to accomplish? With Sid, and I do talk about him a lot because he was such a big part of my life. Even today, we don't talk as much as we used to. Obviously, that job he has is he's crazy busy all the time, but we probably still talk once every 2 weeks. And, as you're watching him and the job that he's doing right now, he's still trying to do those same things that he was doing in those coaches meetings, along with the people he's working with now. He's trying to put great people around him and letting them do their job. But on the flip side of that, he's trying to make sure that the people of East Baton Rouge Parish understand that he's not a politician. He's there for them genuinely, personally. He's there for them, and that's something that if you don't know him and you look at him from afar, you're kind of like, I don't know about this guy, But the people that know him personally, that's legit. That's the way he is, and that's the way he's always been. I've been really blessed to have a guy like that. I played for a man named Dale Weiner, who was one of the all-time greats in Louisiana, and taught me a lot about being able to have the same kind of relationship with your first team stud on your team, as well as the guy who's maybe sixth on the depth chart at receiver. Right. The relationships that he built with all of us were tremendous. I got to watch him in the way that he was a husband to Miss Lindy. I got to see him as a father. Neil Weiner was a freshman when I was a senior in high school. And I got to see how he coached and he did all that stuff while being the ultimate family man as well. That had a huge impact on me. Certainly something that I try to bring to the table as a coach now. You're on our staff now. You know what I talk about when I say if you have family obligations, or you got something, your wife has something, kid's got something or whatever, you need to be there for them, right? We'll figure this football thing out away from that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are all really, really important things, and this is a tough job that we have with the hours that we have to put in, with the amount of thought that goes into somebody else's child.
Yeah.
Right? And sometimes coaches get away from taking care of things on the home front that they need to take care of first and foremost, right? So I try to make sure that we make that a big ordeal and a priority. The last two guys that I'll talk about, one of them was my O-line coach, Joe LeBlanc. Joe was my O-line coach at Catholic. He was also, his father and my father were the best men in each other's wedding. He was my physics teacher. He was my position coach. He was my next door neighbor. Right. So, and then he was the principal at Zachary when I got hired here.
Really?
So this guy was hardcore to the bone. He was a college football player, but somebody who had a profound impact on my life, and did a lot of things for me growing up and kept me in line. And can you imagine your position coach is your neighbor, right? So I wasn't getting with anything.
No.
Show up on Monday, hey, bro, got home a little late Saturday. I mean, none of those things, But the last guy I'll talk about is Kenny Spellman. Kenny Spellman was my head wrestling coach at Catholic, and one of the greatest motivators I've ever been around. And what Kenny taught me was everybody's got a different button to push.
Mm-hmm.
Like cookie cutter doesn't always translate, right? And he was amazing at being able to push the buttons that he needed to push to get the best out of each person. I was not the kind of athlete that responded really well to a guy standing over me and just cursing me and yelling at me and just hammering me. I just didn't respond to that really well. But when he would say things like, hey, Brew, it's okay. You're just not that talented. I mean, you did the best you could right there. I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you'll get them next time. Ooh.
That was the button.
I would lose it, right?
That was the button.
Lose it, and then it's time to start clearing house after that. Right? But as that continued to go on, I realized what he was doing. He tried all other ways to motivate me, and then found one that worked. And he did that for each of his wrestlers. And so, certainly, that's what I took from him. I mean, the love that I have for that guy. Wrestling's a different entity, I mean, it's a much smaller group knit. Football team's got 100-something guys on it, right? A wrestling team's much smaller, and the relationships are different with all the different weight classes, and so you're dealing with the different kinds of wrestling as you go through the weight classes. But that's what he taught me, right? I mean, like how to make sure that how to motivate, how to inspire. Somebody, which could be completely different from the way you do it to the person standing next to him.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a lot of that from him as well.
State champion wrestler, right?
Yeah. Lucky enough to win a state championship, man. Awesome night of my life. February 14th, 1992.
Still remember the day.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
9:26 p.m. in Jesuits Gym.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
So I don't know if we're going to top that one. We're going to end right there, Coach. That's, right. I mean, you remember exactly where you were when you won, and talked about for your mentors. Certainly influences the way we do things here, and that's awesome to hear. It's one of my favorite things to talk about with anyone. Sure. Kind of what their influences are and how that kind of guides them. I got a buddy who works at Prairieville, and you and Mike Schmidt know each other real well.
Yeah, we graduated together.
I was joking with my friend over the weekend. I said, we're kind of unofficially on that Sid tree now, because he said they did a shelter in place. They're good on their branding over there, right?
Right.
And I said, well, how'd y'all wake the kids up in the morning? He said, Amazing Grace bagpipes. I said, that's it. They all do it.
Right.
They all do it.
Yeah.
So,
definitely.
But Coach Brew, thank you. This was awesome. Hope to do it again next week, man. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
So our player spotlight this week, Captain KB. We're on the captain kick right here. We had Bethley last week, so we have Captain KB, Christian Brooks, UL Lafayette commit. I still call him UL Lafayette because they try to make that Louisiana thing happen. They were University of Louisiana. I'm like, ULL. That's just what I call it, but no. So wide receiver for our team. Christian, I'm glad you could be here, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
So I'm going to kind of ask you some of the same stuff I asked Bethley last week, but we could take this in any direction we want. So first things first, I want to discuss being a captain of a football team, man. We picked 4, voted on by your peers, and so what's that like to know that they're putting their confidence in you in a lot of ways?
Basically, just the leadership role and just being able to communicate with people and, just being that guy when, things aren't going as good. I could be that person, that motivation that's, and everybody here letting them know that, basically, it's just football. And, we're all out here, got the same goal. So that's basically what my goal is. And last year, I was actually fortunate enough to be an honorary captain.
Really?
Yes, sir. So I was, next up, if one of the captains messed up, then I was going to take their role. So, and that was as a junior. So I knew this year,
yeah, because it doesn't have to be a senior. It could be anybody on the team.
Yes, sir. It could be anybody.
So that's better. So the responsibility, obviously, when we talked to Bethley, he's the one who spit out the quote. And he said, with great power comes great responsibility. Is this something you wanted? Were you hoping that your teammates, picked you as one of the 4?
Kind of, not really, but I kind of knew or I figured that, I was definitely going to be a captain, especially, and my name's out there and, what I do for this program and stuff, like just being, that playmaker, everybody trusts me, make plays and stuff like that. So,
right.
I figured I was going to definitely be that guy.
When, so what are some of the responsibilities? I mean, it's obviously it's not written down, it's me and Coach Brew just talked about our coach's responsibilities. There are no written down responsibilities for a captain. It's kind of just a feel thing. I mean, when I was in high school, we did the same thing. We picked 4, and I remember there were some guys after the fact that would kind of and this explains a lot about a team. When guys are upset or they're mad or whatever, but I can remember some guys saying, "Oh, he's not vocal enough," or "He's not this, he's not that," and it gets you thinking about what are the qualities of a captain. There's a ton of different ways to lead, yes, and so talk about that, because not everybody is rah, 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 scream, and yell. Some guys lead by example. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. Definitely. I feel like, the biggest thing is as far as being a captain is just not too much being vocal, but being able to be trusted, on Fridays and being a playmaker, somebody that, the team can count on whenever, we're in, trials and tribulations and different hard situations, so like that. So, just being that guy that everybody can just trust and know that, this guy's going to make a play for the team is, that's how I feel.
Your actions make you a captain, not necessarily the stuff you say.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Definitely.
And that's some advice I wish a lot of people would take, football players, things like that. Or even coaches. I mean, it's actions. Actions are huge. Being the guys that can show up on time, being the guys that could do it. It's not that you can't ever make a mistake. It's that when you make it, everybody's looking, okay, well, he's our guy. How did he respond to a mistake? Does he freak out and, do all this extra stuff, or does he flush it, learn from it, and move on and try not to never make it again?
Yes, sir.
And that's, to me, that's a big part of leadership. So talk to me about your time here at Zachary. I mean, so how long have you been a starter?
I would say about 2.5 years, Coach. I was fortunate enough to start going into the playoffs my sophomore year.
Mm-hmm.
So, the first round of the playoffs against Barb, I scored my first 2 touchdowns that year. And then the second round, I was able to score another one. And then I ended up starting in the Dome.
Against Ruston?
Yes, sir.
So what kind of legacy, obviously, the track record here, 4 titles, 4 titles in 11 years. This is the 12th year that Coach has been here. This is the first senior class that hasn't cashed in yet, and won the big one. And so how important is that to the guys in the locker room? Because like as coaches, we don't see what y'all talk about behind closed doors. We don't see some of that private time where y'all might be, hyping each other up for different things, or saying, hey, this is the last ride, so what's the feeling in the locker room as far as trying to leave your legacy and hang another banner as 2025 title team?
Oh, yes, sir. The legacy in the locker room as far as the senior class and everybody is bigger than football this year, especially, our fallen brother that passed away, Jay. So, everything that we do is for him. And so we just want to make sure, that we making him proud, and he's looking down on us, and just knowing that everything we do, we're fighting the way that he fought whenever he was going through his battle. So it's way bigger than football. We're a family. We hold each other accountable. We make sure each other does the right things, and so it's, to me, it's way bigger than football this year.
Yep. So post high school plans, obviously you have the offer. You're committed, correct?
Yes, sir.
Committed to University of Louisiana. I'm trying to say it right because I don't want to make the fine people of ULL upset. But committed to the University of Louisiana, wide receiver. So what are your plans as far as, obviously you're going to try to play college football and you're going to ride that out as long as you can. What about the classroom? You gave any thought about what do you want to be when you grow up? That's tough for a 17-year-old to answer right now, I know.
Yes, sir. Not really. I've been thinking about kinesiology. I took sports medicine last year. So, basically just being an athlete and just knowing, the different things about athletics and stuff.
That's something you're interested in. Yeah.
Yes, sir. That might be the easiest thing to major in.
So that's good, man. And, as we wrap it up, we wish you all the success this year. I'm happy you're able to come on and kind of tell us about, what your experience here has been like and being a start of 2.5 years and, having walked in the dome before and wanting to do it again and especially wanting to do it for those who can't anymore and for the guys you've been riding with. Final words?
Just, it's all about the Z.
All about the Z. Inside the Z, the Zachary Football Podcast, man. I'm glad you're able to come on, man. Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Week 1 edition of Inside the Z, the Zachary Football Podcast. Don't forget, like and subscribe. New episodes out every Wednesday right here on YouTube.